Hello and welcome to this short video tutorial on how to be really good at video conferencing. Video conferencing or video calling used to require special hardware and networks, but today all of that has changed. You may not have your personal jetpack yet, but the laptop or tablet or phone that you're using right now can almost certainly support video conferencing using the internet connection you already have. Whether you're working from home because of coronavirus, reducing your flights because of the environment, or managing a distributed team, it's time for you to get really good at video conferencing. So over the next few minutes, I'll share with you best practice in two areas. First, how to prepare for a video call and set up your equipment for best results. And then some tips on taking part, the etiquette, if you like, of video calls. By the end, you'll be ready to do all this yourself, and you can use the handy checklist that I've linked to below and get a lot more done on your next video call. So let's get started. Having a good video call comes really down to one thing, and that's preparing properly. Doesn't really matter whether you're in your office, working from home, or connecting in from a vehicle via a mobile connection. The same setups will apply and the same tips will make sure that you can get the most from your video conference. So let's look at this in four areas. First, there's the equipment. What you need here is really basic. As long as you've got a moderately up-to-date laptop with a microphone and webcam, you're all set. And all the equipment that's currently standard issue for most organizations, and also most domestic equipment bought within the last few years, will all support video conferencing. But if your device doesn't have a camera or doesn't have a mic, speak to your IT department or visit the store and they will sort you out really quickly and inexpensively. You can also use a tablet or a mobile phone, and of course they already have speakers and cameras and microphones built in, and depending on your physical location you might find that's actually even more convenient than using a computer. Second thing to think about is network. Now you'll need to connect to the internet in order to make a video call, and you'll need that connection to be as robust as possible. Wired networks are better than wireless networks, so if there's one available in your location, even if you normally use Wi-Fi, take the time to plug your laptop in. If there's no physical network, then use the Wi-Fi. That's going to be absolutely fine. It's almost always fast enough for video calls, and it'll also mean you have a bit more flexibility about where you position your laptop, which we'll talk about in a moment. If you don't have Wi-Fi available, then you need to use mobile data, and that means you're probably better off using the video conferencing software that you have on your phone or on your tablet, because these devices automatically compress your video signal more so that it's optimized for mobile data. Third thing we need to think about, once we've figured out our network and our device, is where we're going to position that device. The important thing here to consider is lighting. Video cameras really don't work in the dark, so make sure that your environment is well lit so that other participants can see you. And you've really got to be careful about where the light is coming from, and make sure that you don't have any light sources directly facing into the camera. If you sit with a window behind you and your laptop camera pointing at that window, it'll be flooded with light and you'll just be a silhouette on the screen. Ideally, you want to sit so that you're facing the light sources, and the camera, the laptop or device is between you and the light source. That way you'll be well lit and the laptop or camera won't be blinded by the light. And as well as light, you also need to think about the sound, of course. If you sit next to a washing machine or next to a busy photocopier because it's the best location for light, you'll find no one's going to be able to hear you. So it's worth finding a quiet place, particularly if you are in a noisy office or a noisy environment, because that noise can leak onto the call, and also it's going to be really distracting for you and make it difficult for you to hear what's going on the call itself. So we've talked about where we sit. Finally, let's get finally set up. Adjusting the laptop and camera is the final step, and what you need to do here is actually call up the software that you're using and make sure that you can actually see what the camera sees. So fire up your video calling software, be that Zoom or Teams or Skype, whatever it is. Open a new meeting there, it doesn't matter if the meeting's just you, and look at the camera, and then you better check that the lighting is okay. And what you want to do is to get yourself positioned front and center in the image. you probably want to bring the camera a little bit closer than you normally would leave your laptop, because those cameras tend to cover quite a wide area. So if you can bring it a little bit closer and maybe pop it up on a monitor stand or a couple of big books so that you're sort of quite large in the frame, kind of how this setup is showing to you now, you'll find you get a really clear picture and the best result for taking part in the call. So once you're all set up, it's time to join the call. And the etiquette of a video meeting is essentially the same as for a regular meeting, but with the technology changing how you do certain things. So let's talk about joining, making a contribution, making a private comment, and then leaving the call. As with any regular meeting, it's polite to show up on time, and this is particularly important for video calls because often they'll automatically pop up on people's screens at the appropriate time. So the majority of people will be there on time, and if you're not, you'll be the odd one out. So make sure you set up a few minutes before the scheduled meeting time to give yourself time to go through that checklist and make sure everything's working. You can also find that your device might take a moment or two to establish a good connection, and giving yourself a few minutes at the beginning of the call will mean that you can do that before everybody else joins. As with is good practice in any meeting, it's good to know who's going to lead or chair the meeting, because the slight time lag that you get on some video tools means it's easy to talk over other people. You can assume that the person who called the meeting is going to take that role unless they say otherwise, and in most cases the best thing to do when you join is simply to connect up using the software, say hello and introduce yourself, and then put yourself on mute. Now, on video calls, muting yourself is really important because it makes the whole call work really well. Unless you're chairing the call and having to talk all the time, the best idea is put yourself on mute whenever you're not speaking. This ensures that the audio is really clear, and for those video tools which automatically switch to the video feed of the person who's speaking, it means you won't end up with looking like you're the presenter just because somebody dropped a pencil somewhere near you. So to indicate that you want to say something, there are a couple of things you can do. Obviously slightly different from a physical meeting where you're face to face with somebody, where physical signaling is very easy. But on a video call, one of the things you can do is simply come off mute. An attentive person who's chairing will see on their video screen that your mute has come off. There's usually some sort of indicator in the different software to do that, and that will give them the opportunity to allow you to speak. Alternatively, you can raise your hand. It's really easy to do, just physically on camera, or perhaps in a larger meeting using the software. If the tools allow you to do that, they often have a raise hand feature, and that can work better in larger groups where there's a lot of cameras on the go. Once you finish speaking, pop yourself back on mute again. And some software even allows you to just use the space bar as a sort of press to talk thing, like you would if you were using a walkie-talkie. So figure out how your software does the muting and unmuting, because that's the feature you're going to use quite a lot during any video call. Often, particularly on a larger call, you might have a comment about what someone's saying, but perhaps it's only intended for one person, or perhaps you want to ask for a contribution from somebody who's a little shy, or suggest that the chair needs to move the conversation on, or whatever it is, but it's not a comment for the general room. Most video software has some sort of chat feature which enables you to type a comment and have that comment shown to everyone on the call or just to one person. So that's a brilliant tool to use to be able to just effectively pass a private note to somebody. Doesn't disrupt the flow of the call, but it can help you to move things along and make sure that everyone gets heard. As with any meeting, some people are shy, and particularly if you're new to video conferencing, it can be really intimidating. So it's important that we make sure everyone's heard and that everyone feels like they can participate in the meeting, otherwise it really won't work. So those chat tools are a really useful tool to use as long as everyone knows they're there. There's no point in sending chat to somebody who's not looking at the chat window. So if you have a conversation about that with your team, if you're going to use that on the call, you can avoid any confusion. When you're all done with the meeting, it's customary just to come off mute and say goodbye to everybody as everyone's leaving the call. And do make sure that you shut down the video software completely before you make any comments in the room about the meeting that you were just on, just in case you're still connected. If you take a moment to set up, follow the etiquette for the video call, you should be in really great shape for some very productive calls. There you have it, how to be really good at video conferencing. Do grab the checklist from the link below. Happy conferencing. Bye for now.